Welcome to Bamanda Podcast, your frontline source for smart, sharp, and straight talk on IT trends, tech truths, and digital transformation. Here is today's podcast in English.
Ever looked at the sheer potential of Microsoft 365 and just wondered how you build powerful custom solutions, things that actually last through all those continuous updates? You're definitely not alone there. It's a complex world. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through all that noise and bring you the really valuable insights. Today we're taking a deep dive into modern Microsoft 365 development. We're focusing specifically on the SharePoint Framework, that's SPFx, and how it works so incredibly well with the Microsoft Power Platform.
Yeah, and our whole exploration today, it's really grounded in the Bamanda technology training material. It's a fantastic resource, really offers a solid guide for anyone looking to build these dynamic, secure, and truly scalable solutions inside the Microsoft ecosystem. We've basically tried to distill its core ideas into practical takeaways for you.
Exactly. Our mission here is simple. Give you a clear, practical grasp of these crucial tools, show you how they fit together, and equip you with that strategic knowledge you need to really supercharge your development. We want you to walk away with some real aha moments, ready to build things that are, future-proof.
Okay, so let's kick things off with SPFx. You know that feeling, right? Wanting to customize SharePoint, but always worried about breaking things with the next update. Or getting stuck with that old clunky server-side code. SPFx is really the answer to that.
It really is transformative.
Yeah.
SPFx is Microsoft's modern client-side development model. It's for building those custom user experiences, web parts, directly in SharePoint Online and modern sites.
Yeah.
Unlike the old ways, like server-side solutions or even script editor web parts, SPFx runs entirely in the user's browser.
Okay, so that makes solutions much lighter.
Exactly. Lightweight, super responsive, and really importantly, much more secure.
So it's not just a new coding style, it's a whole different way of thinking about SharePoint architecture. It uses modern web tech that lots of developers already know, right? Absolutely. Things like React or Angular, if you prefer, TypeScript for safer code, Node.js behind the scenes.
And tools like Yeoman for setup, Gulp for build tasks.
Yeah, all that standard modern web tooling. And this whole approach allows for much deeper, much more secure integration with things like the Microsoft Graph API, even Microsoft Teams. It's a big step up.
Right. And that client-side architecture you mentioned, that means less load on the server, faster interactions for the user.
Precisely. It translates directly to a more fluid user experience. Plus, SPFx solutions are context-aware. They know about the user, the site, the page.
Allowing for more personalized stuff.
Exactly. And they're built to be mobile ready and responsive right out of the box, thanks to integration with Microsoft's Fluent UI system.
That sounds like a huge win. You're building with the platform, not kind of fighting against it. So practically, you'd use Yeoman to start a project. Pick your framework, maybe React, write your code in TypeScript, which helps catch errors early now.
Definitely. Much more reliable code.
And then there's the property pane, so end users can configure the web part without needing a developer.
Correct. Makes them really flexible.
Okay, let's think about a real-world example. Say your company needs a custom team news web part for the intranet. It needs to pull news from a SharePoint list, maybe let users filter by department, look nice and modern. SPFx seems like the obvious choice here.
It absolutely is. It allows you to build something secure, interactive, and importantly, stable over time. It's the difference between like a quick hack and a proper enterprise solution. I've actually had conversations maybe with a PM who asked, why bother with SPFx? Can't we just drop some script in the old script editor?
Yeah, I can imagine.
But my answer is always, look, with SPFx, we're building for the long haul. It's client-side, it's responsive, it integrates securely with M365. And the really critical part, it won't break when SharePoint updates. Plus, I'd add, we get to use proper tools like React and TypeScript. That means maintainable, enterprise-grade code. It's just best practice now, like the Bamanda technology training material emphasizes.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've built your awesome web part. How do you get it deployed?
Right, the deployment. It's actually pretty streamlined. You use a couple of command line tools, part of the build process. You bundle your code.
Bundle, like gather everything up.
Yeah, basically gathering all your code, images, any other assets, and optimizing them. Then you solution package it.
Which is like zipping it all up?
Exactly. Into one neat file with an .sppkg extension. You use commands like gulp bundle ship and gulp package solution ship.
Okay, .sppkg. Then what?
That .sppkg file gets uploaded to your SharePoint app catalog. That's like the app store for your tenant or specific site collections.
And admins need to approve it, especially if it needs permission.
Yes, absolutely. If your web part needs to access, say, Microsoft Graph data, you declare those permissions and an administrator has to explicitly approve them. It's a key security checkpoint.
Good stuff. So for anyone listening, a good first step might be to just try scaffolding a basic project.
Definitely. Use the Yeoman generator, Yo, at Microsoft SharePoint, pick React maybe, and just deploy it to your test site's SharePoint workbench. It's the best way to get a feel for it.
Cool. Remember, everyone, SPFx helps make your SharePoint customizations future-proof, not fragile. It's the modern, secure way. All right, quick review then. First question, what are maybe the top 1 or 2 advantages of SPFx compared to those older SharePoint customization methods?
Number 1 is definitely the client-side nature, better performance, responsiveness. And number 2 is probably its alignment with modern web standards and tooling, which means it's more maintainable and won't break with platform updates.
Good ones. And second, which open source tools are really core to SPFX development, like Node.js, Yeoman, Gulp, TypeScript?
Yeah.
What do they each do?
Okay, Node.js provides the runtime environment. Yeoman scaffolds the project structure. Gulp runs build tasks like bundling and packaging. And TypeScript adds static typing for more robust JavaScript code. They all work together.
Perfect. Okay, so that covers building new things, new web parts. But what if you want to change how SharePoint itself looks or behaves without building a whole new component from scratch?
Now you're talking about SPFx extensions. This is where things get really interesting, I think. Extensions are specifically designed to enhance or modify the existing SharePoint UI and behavior. Think lists, libraries, page layouts. They're different from web parts because they inject logic or UI into the SharePoint framework itself.
Gotcha. So web parts are like adding new rooms to your SharePoint house?
Yeah.
Extensions are more like adding smart home features, like a global alert system, or custom displays for data, or new buttons on existing things.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. And the Bamanda technology training material clearly outlines the 3 main types.
All right, let's touch on those. First, application customizers.
Yep, application customizers let you add custom elements consistently across many pages. Think headers, footers, or maybe script injection points that run on every modern page in a site.
So a real-life example might be that company-wide notification banner we mentioned, like reminder, timesheets due Friday, plastered at the top everywhere.
Perfect example. That's exactly what an application customizer is for.
Okay, then there are field customizers.
Field customizers change how data in a specific list or library column is displayed. Instead of just plain text, you can render something much richer.
Like that statuses field example, turning plain text into nice color-coded badges, red, orange, green for tasks, makes it instantly understandable.
Precisely. It adds visual context directly to the data, right where users see it.
Right.
Very powerful for usability.
And the third type, command sets.
Command sets let you add custom actions buttons, basically to the command bar of lists and libraries, or even to the context menu when you right-click an item.
So you could add a button like send for approval that only shows up when you select a document, and clicking it could kick off a workflow.
Exactly that. You're extending the built-in actions with your own custom logic. These extensions offer subtle but really powerful ways to tailor the SharePoint experience.
Okay, this is all great for customizing SharePoint, but modern apps need data from all over Microsoft 365, right? User info, calendars, Teams.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And that's where Microsoft Graph comes in. It's the unified gateway, the single REST API endpoint to access data and intelligence across the entire Microsoft 365 platform. User profiles, files in OneDrive, SharePoint content, Outlook mail and calendar, Teams messages. It's all accessible through Graph using one consistent authentication model.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Pulling together personalized views for users, how does SPFX handle connecting to it securely?
It's actually quite elegant within SPFX. You use something called a HTTP client. This object handles all the tricky parts of Azure Active Directory authentication and managing OAuth 2.0 tokens automatically.
So the developer doesn't have to mess with token refreshes and stuff?
Pretty much no. You just declare the permissions, they're called scopes, that your application needs in the package-solution.json file. Things like user, read for basic profile info, or maybe mail, read to access email.
And then an admin approves those requested permissions, right? During deployment.
Correct. That admin consent step is crucial for security and governance. It ensures the application only gets access to the data it's explicitly been granted permission for.
So going back to that My Assigned Tasks web part example from the Manda technology training material,
Yeah.
you could enhance it Beyond just showing SharePoint tasks,
Yeah.
you can use 8HTTP client and graph to pull in the user's profile picture, maybe their next few calendar appointments.
Exactly. Display it all together in one integrated, personalized dashboard. That's the power of combining SPFx with Microsoft Graph, creating those really cohesive experiences.
Nice. And you mentioned people can try this out by adding web app permission requests in the package-solution.json.
Yeah, add a request for user.read. Then in the web part code, you use this.context.8http client factory.getClient https.graph.microsoft.com to get an instance of that 8http client. Then you can make calls to Graph, like fetching me to get the current user's profile. It's a great hands-on exercise.
Cool. So the takeaway here, SPFx extensions let you subtly enhance SharePoint's own experience, while Microsoft Graph opens that huge door to all your M365 data securely.
Nice.
Okay, quick review questions for this section. First, when would you choose an application customizer versus, say, a field customizer?
Application Customizer is for broad site-wide UI additions like headers or footers. Field Customizer is for changing the rendering of data within a specific list column. Different scopes, different purposes.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Second, how does SPFx securely connect to Microsoft Graph? What's the key component there?
It uses the 8HTTP client. That's the key. It handles the Azure AD authentication and token management automatically based on permissions declared in the package and approved by an admin. Secure and relatively simple for the dev.
Awesome. All right, now let's shift gears a bit. We've got this powerful pro-code tool, SPFx. We also have the Microsoft Power Platform, known for its low-code agility. What happens when we bring these two worlds together? How can we blend them to build even smarter, more robust solutions?
This is where things get really synergistic. Combining the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI with SPFx unlocks incredibly rich, integrated experiences across SharePoint, Teams, and Office 365. You can, for example, embed Power Apps forms or Power BI reports directly inside your custom SPFx web parts. Or you can trigger Power Automate flows from your SPFx components. It breaks down the silos.
Okay, I like the analogy from the Bamanda technology training material. If SPFx is your custom-built engine, then Power Platform components are like specialized pre-built modules you add on. Power Apps for, say, efficient data input.
Like a fuel injection system?
Yeah. Power BI for real-time data display.
A diagnostic dashboard.
And Power Automate for workflows.
An automated gearbox. Yeah, they really do work together seamlessly.
So how does that embedding actually work? Embedding Power Apps or Power BI into an SPFx web part?
It's often pretty straightforward. For Power Apps, you can typically use an iframe within your SPFx web parts code. You can even pass parameters into the iframe URL to make the Power App context aware.
So the Power App could know which SharePoint page it's on? Or which item is selected.
Exactly. For Power BI, you can also use iframes, or there's a dedicated PowerBin embed React control that makes it even easier to handle authentication and embedding options.
So a practical example, maybe embedding that leave request form, built as a Power App, right inside an SPFx dashboard on the company intranet.
Perfect use case. Employees submit requests without leaving the main dashboard page. Seamless experience.
Or showing live business KPIs from a Power BI report directly within a SharePoint team site's homepage using an SPFx web part.
Yep, giving users that critical data right where they work without needing to navigate away. It's about bringing insights into the flow of work.
Okay, embedding makes sense. What about triggering Power Automate flows? How does an SPFx component kick off a flow?
Now, the most common way is to set up your Power Automate flow with a trigger called when an HTTP request is received. This essentially gives your flow a unique URL endpoint.
Like a webhook.
Precisely. Then, from your SPFx code, maybe on a button click, you make a standard HTTP fetch. Call to that URL, sending any necessary data in the request body, usually as JSON.
So you could have a button in an SPFx web part, say Submit Help Desk Ticket. Clicking, it calls the Power Automate Flows URL.
Right.
And the flow then takes over, maybe creates an item in a SharePoint list, notifies the IT team via Teams, all without complex back-end code in the SPFx part itself.
Exactly. You leverage Power Automate for the workflow automation piece, and often SharePoint lists act as that central data hub, keeping things consistent between SPFx, Power Apps, and Power Automate.
That common data layer is key. Yeah. And what about adding some AI into the mix? The Bamanda Technology Training Material mentions AI Builder.
Yes. AI Builder is Microsoft's low-code AI platform. You can integrate its pre-built or custom AI models for things like document classification, sentiment analysis, form processing, often triggered via Power Automate.
Okay, paint me a picture. How would that work?
Imagine documents get uploaded to a specific SharePoint library. This triggers a Power Automate flow. The flow sends the document content to an AI Builder document classification model. The model analyzes it and returns a label, like contract, invoice, proposal.
Ah, okay.
The flow then writes that label back to a metadata column for the document in SharePoint. Now, your SPFx web part, when displaying documents from that library, can read that metadata and maybe show a color-coded tag next to each document based on its classification.
Wow, that's smart. Adding intelligence without needing to be an AI expert yourself.
Exactly. It's about democratizing AI capabilities within these business solutions.
I can see how this plan is powerful. Sometimes you hear that question, maybe from an IT lead to a developer. Okay, this form looks great in the SPFX dashboard, but you built part of it with Power Apps. Why didn't you just code the whole thing in SPFX?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And the answer usually revolves around efficiency and playing to strengths. You'd say something like, well, by embedding the Power App, we got the best of both worlds. We built the form super quickly using Power App's low-code tools, great for fast changes, maybe even letting the business folks tweak it. Our SPFX web part provides that robust, perfectly branded container, the seamless integration.
So we didn't have to spend ages coding complex form logic from scratch in SPFS.
Exactly. It was faster to deliver, easier to maintain the form part, and the user still gets a totally integrated experience. It's about using the right tool for the right job, just like the Bamanda Technology Training Material advocates.
Smart architecture. Love it. Okay, so a practice activity here could be building a simple Power Automate flow.
Yeah, one with that HTTP request trigger. Define a basic JSON structure for the data it expects. Then, from a simple SPFX button, try using fetch to call that flow's URL, sending some sample JSON data. It really demystifies the connection.
Great idea. So, the takeaway. Combining SPFX and Power Platform creates powerful hybrid solutions. Pro code and low code working together for robust, intelligent experiences. Let's do a quick review. First question. How can you embed a Power App inside an SPFX web part, and what's a good reason to do that?
You typically use an iframe. A great reason is to leverage Power App's rapid form-building capabilities within a custom, context-aware SPFX interface, like that leave request example.
Makes sense. And second, what role do SharePoint lists often play when you integrate SPFX, Power Apps, and Power Automate?
They often serve as that central shared data source, ensuring data consistency and providing a common ground for all these different components to read from and write to.
Got it. Okay, final section. Building these great integrated apps is awesome, but how do we manage them? How do we deliver them reliably, maintain them, scale them across different environments, dev, test, broad?
Right. This brings us to application lifecycle management, ALM, and DevOps. These are absolutely critical and non-negotiable practices for any serious enterprise development on Microsoft 365.
So ALM is the whole process, start to finish.
Yeah, ALM covers the entire lifecycle planning, development, testing, deployment, maintenance, source control, monitoring. DevOps is largely about automating that lifecycle, especially through continuous integration CI and continuous delivery CD.
Think of DevOps pipelines like those automated assembly lines for software, right? As the Bamanda Technology Training Material puts it.
Exactly. Moving your code and solutions smoothly from the development workshop through automated testing and into production, ensuring quality and consistency every step of the way.
So for our SPFX solutions, how does that automation work, say, using Azure DevOps?
With Azure DevOps pipelines, you can automate the entire SPFS build and deploy process. A typical pipeline would check out the source code, install the Node.js dependencies, and PM install, run the build commands, gulp bundle ship, gulp package solution ship to create that .sppkg file.
The same file we upload manually.
The very same. The pipeline then publishes this .sppkg file as a build artifact. And finally, a release pipeline can take that artifact and automatically deploy it to the SharePoint app catalog, often using tools like PnP PowerShell to script the upload and approval if needed.
Okay, fully automated from code check-in to deployment. What about the Power Platform side? Power Apps, flows, how are those automated?
For Power Platform, the key tool is the Power Platform CLI, often called the PAC CLI. It's a command line interface specifically for automating ALM tasks for Power Platform solutions.
So you use PAC CLI in your pipelines too?
Yes. You use it to automate exporting solutions from one environment, like dev, and importing them into another, like test or prod.
And there's that important distinction between managed and unmanaged solutions, right?
Sure.
The Bamanda technology training material really stresses this.
Absolutely crucial. The best practice is always export from your development environment as unmanaged. Unmanaged solutions are editable. They're where you do your active development work. But when you promote to test, UAT, or production environments, you should import the solution as managed.
Why managed for test and prod?
Managed solutions are like sealed units. Once imported, you typically can't directly edit their components in that target environment. This ensures consistency, prevents accidental changes in prod, and makes upgrades and patching much, much cleaner. You essentially replace the old managed solution with the new version.
Got it. Unmanaged for dev, managed for everything else. That makes sense for control. Now, what about sensitive stuff? Site URLs, API keys? You can't just put those in the code, right?
Absolutely not. Never hard-code secrets or environment-specific configurations. For SPFx, you might use .env files during development, making sure they aren't checked into source control, or custom configuration files.
And for Power Platform?
Power Platform has built-in environment variables within solutions. These are designed specifically to hold configuration data like URLs or other parameters that might change between environments.
Okay, but what about real secrets?
Yeah.
API keys, passwords.
For truly sensitive information, never ever store it in source control or directly in solution files. The best practice is to use a secure secret management system. Azure Key Vault is a prime example. You store your secrets there, and your Azure DevOps pipelines, or GitHub Actions, can securely retrieve them at deployment time and inject them where needed, perhaps into Power Platform environment variables or application settings. You can also use secure variable groups in Azure DevOps or secrets in GitHub Actions.
So the pipeline handles injecting the right secret for the right environment at the right time without it ever being in the code base.
Exactly. It keeps secrets secure and separate from your application code and configuration.
Let's picture this working together. That task tracker SPFx web part we imagined, with its Power Automate flow. Your DevOps team sets up CI/CD in Azure DevOps. A developer pushes a code change for the SPFx part.
Right. That triggers the SPFx build pipeline. It builds, tests, packages the .fppkg.
Then a release pipeline deploys that .pppkg to a staging SharePoint site.
Yep. And maybe simultaneously, another pipeline job uses Pake CLI to export the related Power Automate flow and any other Power Platform components as a managed solution from dev.
And imports that managed solution into the UAT Power Platform environment.
Exactly. So both the SPFx part and the Power Platform parts are deployed and updated together, ensuring the whole integrated solution works correctly in the target environment.
That coordinated deployment is key. I can imagine a DevOps engineer explaining this, maybe like in the Bamanda technology training material scenario,
Yeah.
guiding a junior dev. Okay, first, the pipeline builds your SPFx package. Then we use Pake CLI to export your Power Automate solution as managed, remember from dev.
And the junior asks, why managed?
Right. And the engineer explains, because managed solutions are like sealed products for UAT and prod, ensures consistency, makes upgrades clean. We only use unmanaged in dev where you need to make changes. And, the engineer would add, any API keys, they live in Azure Key Vault, never in the code.
That's the essential DevOps discipline for this stack.
Okay, so a practical task here. Maybe try setting up a really basic Azure DevOps pipeline.
Yeah. Connect it to a GitHub repo with a simple SPFx project. Just get it to run npm install, gulp bundle ship, and gulp package solution ship. Even that simple build automation is a huge step.
Definitely foundational. So the big takeaway, robust ALM and DevOps aren't optional extras for enterprise M365 development. They're essential for delivering your SPFx and Power Platform solutions consistently, securely, and at scale. All right, final review. Question 1, what's the main difference between a managed and an unmanaged Power Platform solution, and when do you use each in ALM?
Unmanaged is for development environments. It's editable. Managed is for testing and production. It's sealed, ensuring consistency and easier upgrades. Export unmanaged from dev, import managed elsewhere.
Perfect. And second, how should you handle environment variables and actual secrets securely across both SPFx and Power Platform in a CI/CD pipeline?
Use built-in mechanisms like Power Platform environment variables or configuration files for non-sensitive variables. For secrets like API keys, use Azure Key Vault or secure pipeline variables, injecting them at deployment time, never storing them in code or solution files.
Excellent summary. Wow, what an incredible journey we've taken today. We started with SPFx as that modern foundation for SharePoint customizations, explored its extensions for enhancing the UI.
Then we looked at integrating with Microsoft Graph to pull in data from all across Microsoft 365.
Moved on to supercharging solutions by blending SPFx with the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, even AI Builder.
And finally, wrapped it up with the crucial practices of ALM and DevOps to ensure everything gets delivered reliably and securely.
We've really seen how these technologies, all detailed so well in the Bemanda technology training material, let developers craft these highly integrated, scalable, and intelligent solutions right across the M365 ecosystem.
Yeah, it's about combining the strengths of pro code and low code, underpinned by solid engineering practices. That's how you build truly powerful experiences today.
Our goal was really to give you that clear roadmap, those shortcuts to understanding, helping you build better, more efficient, more impactful applications. Hope we delivered some aha moments.
Definitely. And maybe something to think about moving forward. We talk a lot about internal solutions, but how could you take these same integrated, secure patterns and extend them? How could you use SPFx, Power Platform, and Graph together to empower maybe your external partners or even your customers securely within your Microsoft 365 environment, making it truly borderless?
Ooh, that's a fascinating thought, extending the ecosystem outwards. Lots to chew on there. Well, thanks everyone for diving deep with us today. Until next time.